Everybody loves Cowboy. How could you not? He is as authentic as it gets. The nickname doesn't represent a gimmick, it represents who Cerrone is to the core. The guy built a full-fledged gym with dorms for fighters to stay on at his farm, and when I say he built the gym, I meant he literally built it himself, as in laid the concrete, did the framing, did the roofing, and so on. And he was pulling 12-hour days, all while keeping up a full-time training schedule. One of his best qualities, though, is that he's truly down to fight whenever and against whoever. And that's something you'll hear almost every fighter say at one point or another, but he's a part of the very small percentile in professional mixed martial arts that truly mean it when he says it, and more importantly, actually does it. The single and only caveat on whether or not Cowboy accepts a fight is if his grandmother's free and able to attend. I don't think it gets any more wholesome than that. But for me, therein lies the problem. It's the big persona that makes him so likable, but it gets in the way of people seeing him for what he is, which is one of the greatest mixed martial artists on the planet. Not just entertainment-wise, I'm talking purely on a skill set basis. The technically sound, high-output striker has a sort of unique style in the way he throws his kicks, but maintains a high guard with both hands while he's turning over the hip. Keeping that high guard coupled with remarkable toughness and willingness to take damage is what allows Cowboy to give us the entertainment he has for all of these years. And never mind his totally underrated, very offensive, and dangerous jiu-jitsu that gets essentially no shine because it lives in the shadow of that exciting fighting style he has. The UFC Octagon touches down in my nation's capital of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada this Saturday with a headliner that is about as fun as any headlining fight can possibly be. Donald Cowboy Cerrone is set to take on Raging Al Iaquinta in a contest that's guaranteed to set that place on fire. We've all been fooled in the past with having an awesome matchup on paper, but when the lights are on, for some reason, it just doesn't meet expectations. So you always have to be prepared for that no matter how exciting the matchup seems. But this one isn't like the others. I have no question we're all in for one hell of a performance, regardless of the outcome. It has to be. Take into account everything I said about Cowboy and consider the fact that he's stepping in there with a guy who's probably just as crazy as he is in a lot of ways. I never really thought about it before now, but Iaquinta and Cowboy have a lot in common in terms of their approach to the fight game. As for the group of people I was talking about who will truly fight anyone at any time, I think Iaquinta belongs to that group. Although he hasn't been as active as Cowboy, which I think literally nobody on the roster has been, but he's a proven gamer with the same mentality of said select group of people. As he's proven most recently with a pretty dominant win over a very hot and highly touted at the time, Kevin Lee. It's easy to say that the outcome of that fight wasn't surprising in retrospect, but the reality is, at the time, it was Kevin Lee who was the A side of that matchup. It was Lee who was viewed to be on the come up, right on the verge of being back into that title picture. But Al wasn't having it, turning in an awesome display of patient, yet aggressive, active striking en route to the one-sided victory. Raging Al also indirectly made a statement, stepping up to fight current lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov on just 1 day's notice at UFC 223 when Max Holloway was forced from the bout on weigh-in day. It was one thing to accept the fight after spending training camp preparing for a 3-round fight versus a striker and switching on a whim to a 5-rounder against probably the most elite grappling talent the promotion has to offer, but coming in there and making a really good account of himself and taking Khabib the distance is a different feat entirely. That fight has aged very well for Iaquinta when I look back at it. Granted, he was on the defensive end of most of the grappling exchanges, but the amount of damage he was able to put on the Eagle, and even placing the champion in trouble on a few occasions, says it all. He really is fearless and the type to never take a step backwards. And lucky for us, so was Cowboy. It isn't a fight that was necessarily on my radar just because in this day and age, 1 week flows into the next with events pretty much every weekend. It's hard to anticipate and then digest these fights when we're on to the next thing immediately afterward. But now that this week is here, I'm damn excited to see this one kick off. As far as I know, there's no tension or drama between these two, and that's just perfect. Just the way I like. Also, just the type of situation that brings out the best / most dangerous Cowboys ever. And Iaquinta being faced with a very dangerous challenge brings out the best in him. I had planned on making a prediction, but I just don't know yet. For some reason, I tend to lean towards Raging Al, but if the same Cowboy that showed up in his last 2 fights comes to Ottawa on Saturday night, that's a damn near impossible man to beat.